listening to the Inside Podcast Network. Podcasts for the enterprise. Hello and welcome to another episode of Inside System Center. While I adjust the volume here, I know it's been the last one or two have been Inside System Center, but we were hoping to bring you a cloud inside the Microsoft cloud, but things conspired. Nevertheless, we are here, and even today's show, Inside System Center, is not really about System Center. To help me explain that to you in a little bit more depth and clarity, Pete Zerger. Hey, Pete.
Hey, Dan.
How are you?
Doing well. How are things down under?
Not bad. Chilly, but it's winter. I feel like it's deja vu. We may have gone through this before.
No comments. So we have maybe the shortest episode of Inside System Center ever.
Yep.
It's also not exactly about System Center. So
yes.
What are we talking about today?
Well, we figured that with the imminent release of Windows 10, it might be a good opportunity for us to step back and have a look at Windows 10. 29th of July is the anticipated release date, so it's only just around the corner. So why don't you kick us off? This is going to be a really quick episode because we don't want to bore users. I'm sure everyone has spent their time catching up on Windows 10, and most of our astute listeners are going to be more than likely in the fast ring of releases for Windows 10. So they're all across it, but let's go over what we know.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we know that some of you out there listening are going to be pretty switched on as to what's going on. So we're going to pull together here just a lot of bits, sorting through the most credible of the latest announcements, the rumors. There have actually been a couple of announcements in the last, a couple of rumors in the last 24 hours, and an announcement just today. On the device side. So we'll talk about launch timing. We'll talk about deployment training in particular, because I know, while Dan and I tend to be a little more data center focused, we do have some desktop, some enterprise client folks out there, don't we?
We do. The only reason I like the data center is then I don't have to deal with end users, but
Dan is a little bit antisocial, but be that neither here nor there. We're going to touch just briefly on updates. There's really not much to talk about around Windows Update for Business.
No.
And I thought it might be nice to touch on devices. So just touch on the flagship phones that are coming.
Yep.
And I'll try to bellyache a minimal amount about my Lumia 635. And a couple of rumors around Surface Pro, timing, specs, etc. that I thought might be worth a chat.
And we'll try and keep it with a business focus. I mean, there's already a plethora of podcasts and shows out there that will cover the consumer side of things. But so we'll do our best to leave that to the experts, and we'll cover, I guess, what we're good at, which is the business side.
Yeah, there you go. So let's get down to business, Dan, and let's talk about what I know we all came here to talk about, and
launch.
That's alternative hero wallpapers.
Okay, cover the important bit first. I was saving that for last.
So we've seen the window where the Windows hero screen where the Windows logo is light, right?
Yep.
So let's get to the important stuff. Ninja Cat.
Yes.
We've all seen Ninja Cat on a unicorn. So now today I was looking at and properly Facebooking Ninja Cat on a narwhal, which is which if you're not familiar with a narwhal, it looks like, imagine a dolphin.
Yeah.
With a unicorn horn.
Yeah. It's like a sea-based unicorn.
So you've got Ninja Cat with his Windows flag, and the narwhal has 2 strips of bacon.
No. Really?
Links in the show note. Get your copy, and I'll make sure you have a link where you can go get a sticker for your Surface. It's absolutely a must.
You didn't send those to me.
I put them on Facebook for all my friends, Dan. So I'll make
Okay.
sure that I'll go tag you on there so you get them. I'll tag you while we're talking. So also Ninja Cat on a T-Rex with
Nice.
with those pingers that my elderly family members used to pick things up off the floor. Except he's holding bacon in each of these little grabber things. And then there is another mean version that involved Ninja Cat, a T-Rex, and Steve Ballmer, but we're not going to get into that.
Ooh.
So let's seriously though, fun aside, get down to business and talk about launch. So launch is
Yes.
July 29th, and I think you're going to tell me that we're going to wake up on July 30th where everybody's going to have Windows. The world's a better place,
Of course.
and on we go. Yeah.
No, not really. Okay, I've just seen the narwhal one. Sorry. Go. I'll concentrate on you. Look. I mean, I think it's expected that the consumers will get Windows 10 long before business users. I don't anticipate too many businesses waking up on January 29th going, right, now we can roll it out. It'll be much later this year until we see businesses start to roll that out. And I think that one of the contributing factors there is going to be the technologies used for deployment, but we can briefly touch on that if you want.
Yeah, sure. So I think the key piece to understand is that July 29th is launch date. If you own Windows 7 or 8.1, you can go register for your free upgrade still, but it's a phased rollout. So if you're in the Windows Insider program, which means you're either on the fast ring or the slow ring, doing evaluating the operating system.
Yep.
And if you're going to be a guinea pig, you might as well be a guinea pig on the fast ring, right? Because you're of course not running pre-release software in a production scenario,
Right.
or at least not that you're going to confess if you're smart. So
I shouldn't confess it. Fair enough. Okay, keep going.
yeah, there you go. And that's really just desktop. We know Windows Phone, Windows 10 Mobile is coming later in the year.
Yep.
And in fact, if you're a Windows 10 insider, when build 10.166 rolled out, which was the build right before 10.240, which was your last, preview build before RTM.
Yep.
When we got our 10.166 build for desktop, we got it for mobile as well.
We did.
Although they didn't feel the same to me. I think we felt a little bit more baked on the desktop side, not surprisingly, given the release date.
Yep. Things have certainly seemed more stable on the desktop for the last couple of months, maybe at best. But
yeah,
the
we had a lag there in builds, right? We had a silent few weeks, but 10.130 for me was kind of a stinker, and for your colleague down there, our friend Tao, I think 10.130 was a rough go for him too, and since he was really needing to be productive on his Surface, he rolled that one back.
Yep.
But yeah, we're looking pretty well cooked now. So phased rollout, get yourself registered, and be if you're not an insider, be prepared to not get your copy of Windows 10 on the 29th, but you'll get it in the
it's worth pointing out that the insider benefits don't stop on July 29th either. I mean, the insider program will continue to operate, and you'll be at the forefront of all future releases as well.
Yeah, there you go. But there is an expectation that if you're an insider and you're getting your free copy, that you're going to remain, an insider on the rings, getting your updates. So,
yep. And they use the telemetry from that. I mean, that's one of the important factors for the whole insider program is that there is telemetry being fed back to Microsoft all the time on these builds, and it's that data that goes into making sure that these future releases are stable.
Yeah, there you go. So I think around deployment timing, you said a mouthful. The corporate world's not going to get there fast. I wanted to talk about deployment training briefly.
Yep.
So Dan and so Johan and Mr. Nystrom did a great 8-part series on deployment that folks could pay for $99, and that was available for streaming for a limited time. I don't see it out there now. but you'll find some deployment education in the Windows 10 fundamentals for IT pros over on Microsoft Virtual Academy.
Yep.
In mid-August, you'll see Preparing Your Enterprise for Windows 10 as a Service, the Americas.
Mm-hmm.
And the final link I have in there in the training category, I'm going to put at the top of the training category, and that is a single URL that has every Windows 10 deployment episode from Ignite. So you're going to see Mr. Niehaus, you're going to see Johan, you're going to see Nystrom, you're going to see all the big names there. So so more than you can watch in a day.
Yep.
Let's talk about updates. So here's another kind of snoozer. So I think the big announcement came at Ignite. The very first announcement in the very first keynote, Windows Update for Business. And that's where the rings were shared with the world, right? So the rings that the insiders have been on.
Yep. And I think this is a good idea. I mean, most organizations with any form of update procedure will have a test sample of devices that the update gets deployed to, normally IT itself, and then it slowly trickles out from there. And I think this is a logical move.
Yeah. Well, that was always the challenge with deploying updates with System Center, is that you needed to know what you were doing to make sure that you staggered your rollout timing, so you hit your pilot group first.
Yep.
To make sure that you weren't impacting applications on the server side, you weren't affecting users on the desktop side, and so those rings, which are going to be configurable via policy,
right,
should ease that transition. I think that should make life instantly better for one particular reason, and that's that organizations that maybe aren't mature enough, big enough, are in between enterprise deployment tools, will still feel like they can properly care for their environment because they'll have those rings. They'll be able to stagger those deployments, and it won't feel quite like a free-for-all like it might with Windows, with WSUS.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yep. No, it's
so there we have it.
Good stuff. Wow, we've got through that pretty quickly.
Well, yeah. So let's get to the fun stuff here and talk about patching is important, and I think the important piece there is that that Windows Update for Business is giving us a way to patch the platform in a native, intuitive way. Even if we're not System Center experts, so that's nice.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned patching, and I had to resist the urge to fall asleep.
Yeah, patching is it's not one of those.
Look, it's a necessary evil. It's certainly not the most glamorous of things, but it would be a different world without it.
Let's be honest. You're Jason Sandys. I love you, but I'm not going to play your patching session for my date night with my wife, right? Dude, let's talk about phones. You and I have Windows phones, so let's talk about Windows phones, and then let's talk about Windows phones.
Yes.
So I have a Lumia 635, and she's on the fast ring, on the Insider program running Windows 10, and I'm using that for my various self-study, video streaming, music, etc., just to acclimate myself to the experience. I promised that I would go to a Windows phone when 10 got here, so I'm getting a head start.
Good.
What are you running device-wise now?
My daily driver is a Lumia 930, which I've resisted the urge to put Windows 10 on it because it's been the last couple of builds have been better. But from the research that I've done, I've got a Microsoft Band. It wasn't supported by Windows 10 until the very latest build, and it's been unstable. But I've got a Lumia 530 where I've got it installed, and it's about as low end as you can get. And I like what's coming. I'll like it a whole lot better once it's feature complete and stable. But yeah, I wouldn't move my daily driver over to it just yet. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think I've been a little bit underwhelmed, and not so much by the Windows 10 mobile operating system, but
Hmm.
by the lack of apps for pretty basic functions. I mean, let's be frank. We find technical videos out on places like YouTube,
Yep.
and there's not a proper YouTube app.
Blame
Um,
Google.
you know, yeah. Go try to use the native video player and build me a video playlist. Um,
Yep. Yeah.
it leaves something to be desired, and so folks tend, the companies out there that build apps that we love tend to invest everywhere else first.
Hmm.
In fact, I have a Sonos sound system throughout my house.
Yep.
And Sonos doesn't make an app, so I use Phonos. But
Right.
enough of my complaining there. The bottom line is the App Store reminds me of the Apple App Store many years ago, and Microsoft have had some discussions about how they're going to fix that.
Yep.
And I think the onslaught of universal apps is going to that's where we're going to see equal time here. So we'll get our proper app store eventually, I think.
Look, the encouraging thing for me in terms of that, just really quickly, I know we're on
No, go ahead.
a time schedule, is that despite the fact that the OEMs themselves aren't releasing software, Sonos being one that you've mentioned, Google don't have anything in the Windows Phone market except for a Google app that is essentially a placeholder for their web interface to google.com. But there is a very, very strong community of developers out there that are developing, to some degree, apps that are better than what you would find on iOS or Android anyway. Instagram is an example where there is, I think it's called SixTag, by a guy who develops just beautiful applications. It's a third-party app. It's not the native Instagram app, of which there is one on Windows Phone, but it's so much better than the native Instagram app anyway. So whilst, people sit there, oh, you don't have Instagram or you don't have this, in a lot of instances, the developers within the Windows Phone community are developing better apps than the vendors themselves would do anyway.
That's true.
rant.
The Phonos app to control my Sonos, I love. So let me give you the secret here that Microsoft, I believe, hopes will be the springboard to equality in the store.
Yep.
And if we go back to Build, this is where we see it. Half the tweets I saw from Build were about HoloLens because the demo just knocked everybody on their butt.
Absolutely.
And they had a bunch of them for people to play with.
Yep.
The other half of the tweets I saw were about Xamarin. It's XAMARIN.
Yep.
.com. And so with Xamarin, you can build your apps entirely in C#, and then share that same code across iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, etc. So you can build, you can write once, deploy multiple times. And we have a saying where I work, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. And by God, if I'm going to spend a couple of $100,000 writing an app, Mr. Developer, you're going to write me 3 apps, right? You're going to give me my iOS, my Android, my Windows. That's where it's at, man.
Yeah. And I think the universal app approach that they're taking as well in terms of across phone, desktop, Xbox One, I think that's of huge benefit as well. So I'm keen to see what happens. It probably won't be this year, but next year, to see the uptake of universal applications, and I'll be watching, Windows Phone's market share over the next 12 months just to see whether the approach that Microsoft are taking on phone makes any dent to Android's dominance. I'm not going to say Apple's dominance because global market share for Apple, I think, is at around 18%. That's 18.
Yeah.
Android's up at around 70%. Yeah. So
Well, so let's take that one step further and talk about devices. So definitely I think we saw it build some hope for the app development ecosystem for sure. And all of the talk around universal apps is great. So you have a Lumia 930, which is a pretty sweet phone. You have 20 megapixel cam. You've got I think probably a Snapdragon
800
in there.
Yep, I think so.
Yeah. So tell us about the flagship phones that are coming.
So you're right, and Microsoft promised a new series of flagship phones earlier this year, I think at Build and elsewhere. So over on Windows Central, Daniel Rubino's, I think he was the first to sort of pull all the loose information together, the rumors, the innuendo, and provide a comprehensive outline of the two flagship phones that will be announced. And they are, I'm going to use the Lumia digit designation because I think their code names are terrible, but it's the Lumia 950 and the 950 XL. So these will be the first flagship phones from Microsoft that weren't previously under the Nokia mantra or banner. And these look to be true flagships. The 950 XL is a 5.7-inch Snapdragon 8-core 810 with 3 gig of RAM and 32 gig on board storage. It'll have a 20 megapixel rear camera and a 5 megapixel front-facing camera. It will support the Surface Pen, so it's not just a passive stylus. It will be an active touch screen. The 950 similar specs. It's a slightly smaller screen and an 808 Snapdragon 6-core proc rather than the 810. Everything else is virtually identical, including, I think, the pen support. But the main thing here is the 950 XL will support, or will be the first phone to offer Microsoft's Continuum experience using a soon-to-be announced new product or new, what would you call it, device, a phone accessory, currently under codename Munchkin.
Oh, you beat me to the punch. I was going to ask you to explain to us, Dan, what the hell is Munchkin?
Munchkin. As in the reference to Munchkin, or?
Yeah. Also, you've got several code names out there, right? So you've got code name Valora, Munchkin, Murano, Vana, Lavana. So there's a whole range of a whole new next gen set of Windows phone accessories.
So the Munchkin is effectively the docking station for your Windows Phone that will allow the Continuum feature, so that your phone can dock with or can be your screen can be projected, for want of a better term, to a display. So you can have an external display and a keyboard and mouse. And that display, for anyone who's seen the Build keynote, they did do a demonstration of Continuum. And they had a 23 or a 27-inch display, and it looked, purely from a business perspective. I mean, never mind the consumer market. The ability to just take your phone into work, plug it in, and start editing Word documents. Its first iteration, I don't see it as a replacement for a laptop, because you won't have the processing power, but the ability to just plug it in and start editing keyboard, mouse, big screen, Word document, full view, it's the full Word application. My understanding is that the app on Windows 10 will be the same Office version that you will get, or at least the same guts that you will get on Windows Phone. So I think it's a good play by Microsoft for the business market.
Yeah, so you've got some very useful accessories. We're going to have a pen instead of a stylus, so something that actually works. The treasure tag accessory concept is pretty cool, and with codename Valora, they've added a feature called Motion Guard, which I assume means it's going to alert us when an item we've tagged is moved. So I think that's pretty cool too. You could tag a laptop bag, something like that. And that would avoid the problems we had at a Microsoft conference in Spain a few years ago, where they had some some
Thievery?
bags gone missing,
Right.
for sure.
Yep.
So yeah, good news on the phone front, I think.
Yep.
Hope on the app front. So let's wrap this with a little chat about the Surface rumor. So I saw
Yes.
number one from AT&T confirmed announcement on the Microsoft Surface site today of availability of the Surface 3 LTE.
So that's not the
Uh,
Pro. That's the Surface 3. Yeah.
yeah, that's the Surface 3 without the Pro.
Yep.
For um, standard users, let's call them, from AT&T, and then from T-Mobile at work, you've got the same available for business users starting July 31st as well, I believe it is.
Very good.
So good stuff. And we saw some rumor in another article yesterday, and I don't want to say this is the first rumor about Surface Pro 4, because it's certainly not.
No.
But we've heard in this latest article on the 23rd release date, late October, and specs that tell us based on some parts orders. Folks are always watching where Microsoft orders parts and making some assumptions there.
Yep.
I'm convinced that Daniel's over at Windows Central maybe hangs out in a Microsoft T-shirt in the common area by the Windows Phone building or something.
Possibly.
and here's these things on smoke breaks, the way he hatches this stuff. But so these folks said yesterday over at IT Pro COUK that it looked like we could see a Surface Pro 4 maybe with twice the memory.
Yep.
And maybe moving to a new processor that would give us better battery life. So moving away from the Haswell
to I was going to say Ivy Bridge, but that's not right.
I was just talking about it a minute ago, and I can't remember it because I want to tell you what it is. So the rub there is going away from the Haswell. We get to a processor that could potentially give us 30% more battery life, I think was what the article said. So
yep.
And I will say that given what and then as I'm finishing the sentence, I'm going to think of the name
Broadwell.
of that.
The Broadwell chips.
Oh, you beat me to it. I knew it had a B in it.
Yep.
So that should give us, I think, 30% better battery life. And truth be told, I haven't seen anything that resembles better battery life with my Surface Pro 3 running Win 10, and I'm keeping my my brightness factor down pretty good. So.
Yep. Yeah, look, I mean, battery's always been one of those things. I'll get a day out of my Surface Pro, which, but it'd be borderline come the end of the day, depending on use.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact.
I think the 16 gig would be nice.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I'm going to be interested to see if you'll see how the Windows Hello that we're also seeing in the phones. So basically, they can scan your face in addition to the iris. You'll be able to log in with your face in addition to the iris scanning that's there.
Yep.
I'll be interested to see a turbocharged Surface Pro 4 where I'm logging in by sitting down in front of my machine.
I think
should be a good time.
I think it makes more sense on a desktop than it does on a phone. More often than not, if you're logging into your phone, you're doing something that you want to do a quick search or check your email, whatever it might be. The idea of having to hold your phone, and it really depends on the lag and whether there is any lag with that process. Because if it takes 3 to 5 seconds for the Windows Hello to work on a phone, I can type my password in quicker than that. I think it makes pretty good sense. That'll be interesting to see. It's always hard to guess. I think what folks are going to catch up on. But I've got to point out that that's one of the big of the data that I've seen for the iPhone 7. One of the main things is that they're getting rid of some of the lag with their thumbprint login. So that's obviously an issue.
And that's a feature I do enjoy about the other platforms is thumbprint logins, being able to grab and go. So so I guess interesting times ahead here. A lot of possibility on the horizon. But Dan, we're coming up on almost 30 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
So let's,
so much for our 20 minutes, eh?
yeah. So let's take it out on a high note. And why don't you tell folks where they can find you in the world of social media?
You stole my line. I did. I can be found on the Twitter at Dan Kreger, DANKREGOR. You can also follow the network at Inside Podcast. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Inside Podcast Network. For those of you who haven't watched the videos yet, we are on YouTube, youtube.com/user/Inside Podcast Network. Nice short URL for you. We can be found at ipn.tv. And for those of you, if you find these podcasts useful and you do get something out of it, then do us a favour and jump on over to Patreon at patreon.com/IPN and become a patron of the Inside Podcast Network. Your small donations go a long way to helping us cover our costs, our out-of-pocket expenses, as it were, for the podcasts, and the time that Pete and I invest in getting these up and out there for you to enjoy. So, how about you, Pete? Where can they find you?
Oh, so you can find me at PZERGER if you're looking on Twitter. And I spend a lot of time lately. We've had some nice chatter over on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Inside Podcast Network. So
yes, get involved, get engaged.
Yeah, absolutely.
We encourage you to get involved and provide some feedback. One thing I did mention last week, and I've seen all of none tweets about it, is the possibility of us broadcasting live. If it is something that you want to see, just send a tweet out using the hashtag IPNLiveYes. We're curious to get your feedback, and if you've got any suggestions, thoughts, anything, just send it over to us. Tweet us or email dan@ipn.tv, or have a quiet word in Pete's ear at a user group meeting, or but that's I think that's it. This has been relatively short, not as short as we wanted, but it'll do, right?
It'll do.
That'll do, donkey. That'll do. All right. So this has been episode 4, I think it is, of Inside System Center / Inside Windows. I mean, whatevs. But thanks for listening, and we will talk to you all again next week. Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, Dan. I like that one so much better.